In the 1970s, Florida residents faced a problem: a mountain of tires that had nowhere to go. Back then, humanity had not yet figured out how to recycle used items, so they were simply dumped in landfills. These landfills were not located in designated areas, but near major cities, and they grew larger and larger over time. Florida solved the problem of tire disposal in a very unusual way. Why build huge tire landfills on land when you can throw them into the water? Fish, accustomed to living among reefs, could set up home there. So, the state authorities decided to create artificial reefs, providing a habitat for commercial fish. They already had experience building artificial reefs for breeding commercial fish. But previously, concrete was used for this purpose, and construction was expensive. The idea of making a reef out of tires seemed very rational, as it allowed them to solve two problems at once: dispose of tires and help the fishing industry. One of the project's authors, Gregory McIntosh, inspired the authorities with his idea. Tires that pollute the land and look awful can be very useful. We will create a fishing reef out of them. In the spring of 1974, state authorities approved the project, and employees of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, together with fishermen, began to implement the idea. They marked out the territory and sank 2 million car tires to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The structure was called Osborne Reef. It covered an area of about 15 hectares. The reef was located about 2 kilometers from the shore at a depth of 20 meters near the eastern coast of Florida. To prevent the tires from scattering along the ocean floor, they were securely connected with metal clips and nylon ropes. According to the project's authors, coral reefs should have attached themselves to the surface of the tires and begun to grow, creating a dwelling for fish. At first, everything went according to plan. The corals did, indeed, begin to inhabit the new surface. Over 25 years, about 10% of the artificial reef was already overgrown with corals, and this was a pretty good indicator. But then something went wrong. Under the influence of salty seawater, the metal ties began to decompose, and the tires began to separate from each other. The structure, which seemed reliable, fell apart. And instead of helping the aquatic environment, the tires began to harm it. They destroyed existing corals and prevented new ones from forming. Why can sunken ships become a haven for flora and fauna, but not tires? Tires are too light. They are washed away by tides and powerful storms before marine flora and fauna can inhabit and attach to them. And tires scattered across the seabed are toxic. Tires that fell out of the structure scattered across the ocean floor. Underwater currents, sea winds, and storms carried them further and further, throwing them ashore. Tires contaminated not only the water, but also nearby beaches. And that's only half the problem. The material from which they are made releases about 120 different carcinogens, harming marine flora and fauna. And the water provokes the release of these hazardous substances and spreads them throughout the ocean. To prevent the situation from escalating into an ecological disaster, the government and a group of enthusiasts. But getting them from the bottom turned out to be much more difficult and expensive than dumping them there. On average, removing one tire cost $17 in the early 2000s. In today's terms, that's over $30. In 2007, the military raised 73,000 tires from the bottom, and this was the most successful attempt in the entire campaign. Even if the ocean floor is completely cleared of the remaining tires, colossal damage has already been done to nature. According to ecologists' predictions, it will take about 50 years to restore the ecosystem and form new coral reefs.